E1, anticipated litigation, 4 cases, 208, 1907 to 1920-07, 2020, 2101, and 2020, 2105. And item number 4 we'll be discussing will be conference with lead negotiator Dustin Conrad, employee organization, Apple Valley Unified School Teachers Association. Conference with league labor negotiator, again, Dustin Conrad, employee organization, California School Employees Association. And finally, number 6, conference with labor negotiator, agents negotiator Trinae Nelson, employee organization, and unrepresented.
And I ask for a motion to go into closed session.
So move. Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Now we can now go into closed session.
You will join the breakout room.
Mr. Bender, when you're ready, click that join button.
This mouse is like snot going down an icicle.
That's weird. Okay, we'll figure out why that's so slow. Okay. maybe just a moment as we await the others as the breakout room naturally closes.
Because we have exited a breakout room for closed session, your mics have already been automatically muted. So to speak, you're going to have to unmute.
Okay.
Calling the meeting to order. Kylie, do we have any, oh no, Kylie, Granite Hills High School, Erin Forget?
Yes, one moment.
Yep, high school.
Board members, Superintendent Nelson, and attendees. Before I begin, I would like to introduce myself to our newest board member, Ms. Blassingame. My name is Erin Forget, and I am the active governing council president for Granite Hills. I look forward to updating you on Granite's activities in the coming months. Since returning from winter break, Granite has been hard at work, as per usual. To encourage our entire student body to also be working as much as possible, we have began Motivation Monday. This is where we post motivational quotes and self-care tips on our social media for our students. We anticipate a rise in student motivation and thus success. Another way Granite has been helping students is through our tutoring center. Immediately after second semester began, our phenomenal Cougar tutors got back to work. Their assistance in every subject offered at our school has helped many students to succeed and is sure to continue to do so. Not only do we help students to succeed in high school, but we also help them to succeed beyond. Our incredible counselors have been spending countless hours helping to prepare our seniors for whatever is next for them. They have been meeting with students weekly to help them fill out their FAFSA applications, communicating with all seniors to ensure we have a backup plan, and aiding us in any way they can to help us complete our intended plans. They are making our soon-to-be transition much smoother than it would be otherwise. On behalf of the class of 2021, thank you, counselors, for all that you have done. Granite Hills goes further than assisting our students in any way we can, though. We also push them to be their most authentic and creative selves. In order to embrace that mentality this semester, ASB has announced our first ever virtual art contest. Students can submit up to 2 of their drawings, paintings, or photographs to be voted upon by the student body in a few weeks. While the contest has just begun, we have already received a large number of submissions and anticipate more in the coming weeks. We cannot wait to see which of our students will win this creative competition. Overall, our return has been highly successful and productive. We think this will lead us to a great second semester. Thank you all for your time this evening, and always remember, maroon and gray lead the way.
Thank you.
Thank you, Erin. Apple Valley High School by Mazel Sia.
Is she on? Yep.
Good afternoon, esteemed board members. I hope everyone had a safe break and a happy new year. During the month of December, we had many exciting events to help keep students engaged. ASB held a Bring Your Pet to Zoom Day where we saw a variety of unique animals. The activity boosted morale and was met with a large amount of positive feedback. ASB also held a successful toy drive for the holiday season. They received 185 toy donations. Sensations and Vocal Motion Choirs held their annual holiday theater show virtually. HOSA continues to spread their monthly disease awareness. To help students with mental health, they are provided with resources such as virtual calming rooms and are encouraged to email their counselors if they need anyone to talk to. Our principal, Ms. Howell, has started holding weekly trivia nights to add a bit more excitement to our students' school lives. Key Club is hosting a virtual club fair on January 27th. Last Saturday, our first batch of students competed in Skills USA. Students continue to prepare for the competitions. Sensations is planning a virtual performing arts workshop for elementary and middle school students. Sensations and Vocal Motion students are preparing for their virtual throwback recital on February 5th. As you can see, our students continue to keep busy through these uncertain times. Thank you for your time, and remember, sensible pride is contagious.
Thank you so much, Mazel. And now we go to the union representative report. Kylie, do we have any from California School Employees Association, CSEA?
We do not.
Do we have any from Apple Valley Unified School Teachers Association, AVUTA?
We do not.
Thank you. Closed session reports.
Yes, there was no reportable action from closed session.
Thank you. Adoption of the agenda. The board may approve the agenda as is or add and or pull items from the consent agenda for discussion and or action. We need to amend the agenda to add item 1.3, approve the reopener proposal from Apple Valley Unified School District as per the 2019-2022 contract between the Apple Valley Unified School District and the Apple Valley Unified Teachers Association. I need a motion.
Madam President, I make a motion to adopt the agenda with the
Amendment.
amended items.
Thank you. And it was a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you.
I just want to confirm that that's going to be added to item I3, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Do we have any, we don't have any recognition? We don't have any discussion information? Oh, yeah, we do have. Discussion information background for the first read of updated board policy.
Thank you. I wanted to, if I'm going to share my screen and go through just some background information that is in regards to items that are later on the consent agenda, items 10, 12, and 13, all of which are board policy updates regarding number 6146 and 6157, just so that there's some background and context for those changes. First, item 6146. It's actually, it's both outdated and it's redundant. It addresses the exact same items as 6146.1. It's just much older. And so there's no need to have two policies addressing the graduation requirements. So the recommendation is to completely delete 6146. It's what most districts have done. And instead use the CSBA recommended 6146.1. So one of the items on the consent is to simply delete all of the language in 6146, which will then give us just one policy that we will adhere to for graduation requirements. 6146.1 is updated. The CSBA updated language does a few things for us that are important. First, it eliminates the high school exit exam as a requirement. That is no longer a requirement for graduation in California. There is talk that it is essentially suspended indefinitely. And if there is a new high school graduation examination, then we will of course add that as a graduation requirement. But at this time, it does not exist. And so that's an important update we need to make. The other thing this policy does is that in the areas where it delineates the number of credits required per subject area, it takes the specific course titles away, and those are removed in lieu of simply the content area. So for example, you'll see in the old policy, specific course titles like Intro to Lit or World Lit crossed out, and instead simply the number of units required for English credit to graduate, which is for us 40. What this does is gives school sites flexibility, and every time there's a change in course title, we don't have to change the graduation requirements. Finally, what this does in 6146.1 is differentiates the graduation requirements between our comprehensive high schools and our dashboard alternative school sites, which for us is High Desert Premier Academy. This is an important distinction that we are legally able to make and that can benefit students greatly. Why do that? Well, the graduation rate calculation is important to note. Our 4-year cohort rate is what is measured. Actually, we get a 4-year rate and a 5-year rate for our comprehensive schools. But High Desert Premier Academy is actually measured on a 1-year cohort because it's a dashboard alternative school. And that 1-year measure is essentially designed to make it so that High Desert Premier Academy's high school focus is about helping seniors get to graduation. For schools like High Desert Premier Academy, the state requires them to have a minimum of 130 units. Ours currently must earn 230 to reach the dashboard alternative graduation level because we have no distinction currently. Our proposal, after looking carefully across the region, is to change ours to a 200 unit requirement, reducing the elective units required, maintaining the core content areas with a focus on matriculating those students to their next step in whether it be post-secondary school at Victor Valley College or trade schools, or if they do plan to return to the high school, then we make sure and work with them to do that. But these are typically not seniors, right? If they're there during their senior year to finish, then they're most likely not looking to finish at the high school and move on to the university level directly. They might go there from VVC. Take a look at the comparisons. At 230 units, High Desert Premier Academy's graduation rate for 2019 was 62.1. Actually, the 2020 graduation rate is in preview. It's embargoed until tomorrow, but it's just slightly higher than that. Look at the graduation requirements across other schools in the area. And where you see, for example, Chaparral High School in Snowline, a program we've gone to visit, we've found it to be a good model for us. But their requirement's 180. And so those students do graduate at a higher rate. They just don't have to spend as much time on electives. Did I lose you there? Everyone see the slide with the graduation rates on it?
Yeah.
No, no, the only slide we have is that graduation rate calculation, but it does not have all of what you're saying.
Okay, I'm not sure if I lost. Let me stop the share and reshare, see if that helps. Apologize for that. Now it's me. Let me try again here. Wrong one. Try sharing this presentation again. Do you see it?
Nope. Nothing yet.
All right. How about now?
Nope.
All right. Well, we are going to give this one more try and then I'll talk you through it. How about that?
Shows up.
Okay, now we see something. Can you enlarge that screen?
Is that good? I don't want to go back into presentation mode for fear I'll lose you.
It's readable.
That's actually textbook adoptions, Pat.
Oh.
Yeah.
I don't know. I keep sharing the same thing, but
While you guys are processing.
There you go.
We got it.
All right.
There it is.
sorry, Maria.
All right.
I'm
So
getting
the
some
question,
jump around.
I have a question there. If we're looking at Chaparral and they have 180, why are we asking our students to do 200? Why can't we go to the 180 and see how we then compare?
We can. We came up with 200 after looking at our students and looking at how many units would it take to get our students to a place where we would catch the most. There's no reason why we can't go lower. We do have to consider that if they ever want to return back, especially if they're in junior year, we don't want them to be too far off track.
Okay.
But there is no legal reason not to go down. We, working with Earl Smith, we found 200 to be a place where we could still maintain the rigor of the program, but also take away some of the elective courses that are really what gets in the way of graduation sometimes for those students, partially because High Desert Premier Academy doesn't have a long list of elective courses.
Yeah.
So that was the rationale for 200, but I understand what you're saying. Other questions about that or comments about the number? that we're proposing of 200 units?
Well, I know that my granddaughter graduated a year and a half ahead at Premier with the 230. But
Yes.
I understand, she was unusual. That's not the norm. So 200 to 180 would, really motivate those students. That,
Yeah. Maybe give them a sense of hope.
yeah.
No, dropping from 230 to 200 is okay. I'm fine.
Well, we have to have an understanding that the students that we are looking at are students who are not working towards college readiness. They are working towards going to two-year college or the workforce. So if that is the case, then just find out what the two-year college will need from our students in order to come in and learn the trade in the two-year college. But just the fact that, high desert Premier does not have enough electives to keep them engaged, that will be a block that we put in place to make it hard for those students to meet the 100 even the 180. You have to remember, how they ended up there. They were reluctant learners or they were not motivated. So now we just need to give them the motivation with 180. You show them 230 versus 180. If you're looking to go to college, then you need to really consider getting your work done here and return to the comprehensive high school where the 230 is required.
Let me propose this. I'm just going to throw out an idea because this is discussion information.
Yes.
Because what we don't want to delay a change too long. We have a first read now, and it would take a second read in February to give these kids some hope. And this is what we kind of worked on with the principal of the site. Could we do an analysis of see what this yields for us and bring back to you a second recommendation if 200 is insufficient?
Sure, that will work.
Okay.
I think that's just drop it to 200 and then we evaluate. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Okay, that's what I'll do. I will bring an evaluation back with grad rates at this new unit requirement.
I'd like to see what the electives are that are being offered
Sure.
at the academy.
Sure.
Okay.
We could do that. They actually have some really creative and well attended electives. Of course, in COVID, they're tough. But that's across all of our high schools and sites. So I'll do that. One last policy related to this is the 6157 that you saw there. It's distance learning. And for the most part, the distance learning policy codifies and puts into policy those structures that we have in place for our distance learning program. However, there are two changes or two additions to the CSBA recommended language. One is an allowance for, and this is why it's part of the graduation discussion information item. It's an allowance for the superintendent to adjust the graduation requirement during a school closure like this for students who are on track and have met the state minimum requirement. If you remember, for example, last year, for the class of 2020, the graduating class of 2020, there was a provision allowed that if they were on track at the time of the closure, that they were allowed to continue and meet the graduation requirement. This simply extends that ability for this year for the superintendent to take notice of students who are in unique situations and hold them harmless if they're on track and making a diligent effort. But as you know, this has impacted students across the system quite with incredible variety. For some, they're thriving, but for some, it's been quite difficult. We can't remove requirements for core content, but we could, in the case of a student, for example, who is 10 units short of an elective, say that they've met the requirement if the superintendent had that flexibility. So that's what 6157 would grant. And finally, the last one's important. And that would, to make sure that our retention policy, mostly applied in the elementary grades, but that our retention decisions need to be based this year more on just student grade level standard acquisition. Think about this. If we say that we're going to hold back any student who did not meet the grade level standard this year, we could have thousands of students held behind. It's just unnecessary and not in students' best interest. It's not that there is no reason for retention. There could be age, maturity, and other things. But we know that for some students, we don't even have good data on their actual ability because either they've been unable to have the time and attention to spend on school, especially during tests, because they're helping to monitor siblings, or they've had other people kind of involved in their school time that causes that to be a complication. So those are the two changes for any time we're in a closure, which we hope this is our only time we're in a closure, but that would be 6157. I'll pause there for questions.
And when you're talking about retention, the guideline changed from retention to retain at second and fifth grade. Is there another grade level, or is that now open to retain at any grade when this is done?
Our board policy at the moment does allow retention at any grade prior to really 8th grade. There's discussion of it. And so our policy does allow for retention. Typically in our system, retention happens in the very earliest grades.
Thank you. Anybody else have another question for Mr. Strasser?
I apologize for my slide problems there.
That's all right. That's technology.
Thank you for allowing me to share that information.
Thank you. Receive AVUSD's reopener proposal for successor agreement with AVUSD. Mr. Conrad?
Thank you, Ms. Okara. As you know, we're in that season. We've discussed this about reopening contract items, and the next two discussion information items are both related to that. This first one is just a brief notification to the board to formalize the intent of AVUSD to reopen 2 articles. Our collective bargaining agreement permits this, and rather than try to screen share and mess things up, I think I'll just read the artifact, the exhibit that you have attached to your board agenda. But as defined in Article 3E of the contract agreement between Apple Valley Unified School District and Apple Valley Unified Teachers Association, AVUSD intends to reopen the following 2 articles. The first being Article 7, association rights, for the purpose to open and review, update, clarify, and adjust language to enhance efficiencies and support the needs, interests, and requests of all stakeholders in the collective agreement. And the second article is Article 12, evaluations to open and review alongside AVUSD. Later in today's meeting, as your agency representative for AVUSD, there is a request to take action to approve these 2 reopeners so that we can begin the negotiation process on these 2 articles.
Thank you.
Questions on that?
Any question on that? Okay, Mr. Conrad, again, to receive AVUTS reopeners proposal for successor agreement with AVUSD.
Yes, AVUTA has prepared their reopeners for the Board of Trustees as well. I'll read their exhibit on Apple Valley Unified Teachers Association letterhead dated January 4th, 2021. May it please the Board of Trustees that the President, Executive Board, and the entire Apple Valley Unified Teachers Association respectfully announce a desire to open negotiations with the Apple Valley Unified School District as per the agreement set forth in the 2019-2022 contract. AVUSD has recognized 3 areas of concern that we would like to discuss and find solutions to. First one, compensation, Article 19. The second one, retirement exit strategy, also Article 19. And the third one, elementary prep time from Article 13. We look forward to working with the district sincerely under the signature there of Christopher Watkins, lead negotiator, and also listed are Leslie McNenly, negotiator, Julie Luby, negotiator, Joel Lewis, negotiator, and Derek Castellanos, negotiator. As this is AVUSD's reopener for negotiations this year, it does not require board action. during the discussion action section like AVUSD's does. There is no approval needed by our board in order to proceed with negotiating these two articles. I just wanted to clarify why in discussion action, we're only going to have one of the two and not both of them. So that's all I have for those two presentations, unless there's any questions.
Thank you. We'll now go to section number F, public comments. Kylie, do we have any public comments?
We do not have any public comments.
Superintendent's comments?
Board, I just know that there are lots of discussions out there right now about a governor's proposed budget, about a grant that has been initiated by the governor proposing that school districts would apply by a February 1st deadline or a March 1st deadline to return students to school. At this time, that grant has not been fully approved. It comes from Prop 98 funds, which are intended for educating the students within a system. And the problem with it at this point that is being, I think, resolved or discussed having to do with the grant has to do with the testing of students and staff. This grant would require testing of students and staff on a weekly basis. The question that lots of educators are having are when would we educate the kids in the classrooms upon their return, or what type of schedule would that look like that would impact student testing and staff testing. So more to come on that. We haven't said no to the grant, but we also will wait until we have further clarification and that it actually has been approved. The second thing is that the governor's budget is out. It is much better than it originally was proposed or at least anticipated. And a lot of the money is one-time money that we will be looking at from the federal government. But there is some good news, it looks like, on the horizon having to do with the federal funds that would be coming to school districts. Right now, we're watching very closely full funding of IDEA. Many of you know that that's the funding that supports special education students within our system. It's an encroachment to serve our students because we're not covered for transportation and other costs associated with that. However, lots of bills right now that we're watching having to do with full funding. So of course, that wouldn't be overnight. It would be over a course of several years. Right now, it looks like about 10 years it would take for it to hit the full funding. But any move towards restoring funding under IDEA is a good move. And then just an update having to do with our vaccination. I know that there's lots of rumors regarding that as well. And when will we have it? And when will teachers and staff within our system have access to that? Initially, the phase 1B, which covered teachers, was how it was outlined, has been expanded to cover all school staffs, which there's questions about. In the phases, phase 1C covers transportation. Well, that doesn't mean that school bus drivers would not have access along with teachers and other staff at a school district. So all staff within a district would be covered under phase 1B. Some of the neighboring counties have already started scheduling with their educators to get the vaccine. It is not required. But we look forward to more information tomorrow from our County Department of Public Health. We will, as a county group of superintendents and led by Mr. Alejandre at the county, be meeting with the Department of Public Health and hopefully have a timeline as to when those vaccines will start being offered to school districts. We do know that phase 1A, as they have completed the vaccines for the first responders and hospital staffs, if there are extra vaccines, those shot clinics or places that are distributing can move down into the other phases, which would include education. So I will keep updating you as we have further information. We have begun surveying small groups of staff regarding the willingness and readiness to get a vaccine when they become available, because certainly we don't want to turn anything down if it is offered. That's all I have for now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
Board comments. Mrs. Blassingen?
Thank you. Bienvenida a todos los hispanos que están oyendo esta junta, y les doy las gracias por todos los comentarios que me han dado de la bienvenida al distrito. I'd like to just say thank you to all the people who have sent me commentary about joining the board. And I would like to encourage you to participate in the district as much as you can, so you know what's happening in the district firsthand. And again, thank you very much. I hope you have a great rest of the year.
Thank you, Ms. Blassingen. Mr. So?
I won't have any really serious comments. I just want to say that we need to watch out for what the governor proposed. And now that with the Democratic administration coming to federal, and hopefully there's a little more money, we'll see. But we don't know how much. We'll see what happens. That's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Bender?
Well, if they expedite the vaccinations, maybe we can get back to in-person learning a lot sooner than we thought. That's my wish.
Thank you. Mr. Raleigh?
Nothing today. Thank you.
And for me, I attended the holiday performance by Apple Valley High School and Sandia students. It was fabulous. And I also paid close attention to your SARC report. So I'll be commenting on that a little later. And to thank Mr. Schulenberg for the budget report that we had yesterday. It was highly, highly informative. So if you can keep up with it and begin to pay attention to it, maybe we can get this, the teachers' contract resolved really quickly. Thank you. Public hearing. Due to the streaming process, we will take a 5-minute pause to allow for public comments to be submitted. Public comments can be sent to avusd_board@avusd.org. Thank you.
If board members would go ahead and mute their mics, then we will call you back when we are done with the delay for the public comment.
Just for clarification, this will be the public hearing on item G1 first. And I'll put a time for it opening as 2:53, if that's okay with you, Mrs. Opara.
It's 5 minutes.
It has now been a full 5 minutes if we can
Okay.
resume.
Okay. Any comments?
We did not receive any public comments pertaining to that item.
Okay. Item number 2, conduct a public hearing for the public to provide input regarding AVUTS reopeners bargaining proposal to the Apple Valley Unified School District. Starts at 2:58. Due to the streaming process, we will take a 5-minute pause to allow the public comments to be submitted. Public comments can be sent to avusd_board@avusd.org.
Madam President, it has now been a full 5 minutes. And then also, just for records, I wanted to clarify that the first public hearing did close at 2:58, correct? You're muted.
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you.
So you'll want to do the same thing with this public hearing, that you close it at what time, Kylie?
3:03 p.m.
Oh, three.
Do we have any comments?
We do not have any public comments.
Okay. Now we're on item H. I need a motion to adjourn to a public meeting of the Apple Valley Unified School District Public Facilities Corporation for a new business as deemed necessary.
So move.
Second,
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Mr. Bender, the president, Mr. Bender, conducts this meeting taking roll call, then asking for action on any items for approval.
Mr. Bender, you are muted.
Roll call, Bender here. Wilson So,
Here.
second. All right. Maria
Present?
and Rick Raleigh.
Here.
Action items, Public Facilities Corporation. Selection of officers of the Board of Directors of the Apple Valley Unified School District Public Facilities Corporation. President,
Dennis, it's okay. I recommend that we not changing anything this year, just because it's not a big, but because of the familiarity with the public financing, especially we go out on the.
I agree with that. Is everybody else?
That's fine.
Maria, is that all right with you?
Yeah, that's fine with me. But
okay.
we need to find some position for Miss Blassingame, so she's not here.
There are only 4 members to the Public Facilities Corporation. So you either will make a motion that you want to continue it as it currently is, or you will make a motion to nominate somebody else to take one of those roles, and then you would take a vote.
Well, I agree with the team. I thought there were 5
Well,
positions.
no, there's only 4 this time. We'd make a change the next time, all right?
All right, thank you. I agree.
All right, thank you.
So you need a motion.
I need a motion to authorize the people for the annual statement of domestic nonprofit corporation with the state of California. Is that the one? No.
Yes.
Motion for the president. Motion for the president. We need a motion for president, vice president, secretary, chief financial officer for the board of directors of the Apple Valley Unified School District.
We're going to maintain the status quo. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, we do have a vacancy because Mrs. Davis served as the vice president last year. Last year, Rick did not serve in a specific role. So he just kind of served in the unofficial role as director. So he can backfill that position, or you guys can make a decision on who will go into that role.
I make a motion that Rick goes into that position.
But yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so now we can have a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right.
Any
Adjourn.
opposed? So now does that put that vacant spot that Rick left to be filled? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it wouldn't be an official position on the Public Facilities Corporation, as there's 4 members to that, but she can serve in the unofficial director position that
Okay.
Rick would have just vacated when he took the vice president role that Mrs. Donna Davis last held.
We'll
Okay.
do that.
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Selection of a time and place for the regular meeting of the Board of Directors meeting, was today, January 13, 2022.
It's a year from now.
You're taking my job there. All right.
Is,
So moved.
okay, all in favor?
1510. Aye.
Aye.
Did we have somebody second that motion?
I'll second it.
Wilson, okay.
Okay, Dennis, please finish your job.
Yeah, you took it right over. All right, so all we need is a closing time. What do you got there? 1511?
3:09.
One moment, we have item 3.
Three.
And
The final
we
annual
need
statement.
a motion on item 3. If you could read that out, Mr.
Authorization given for the filling of the annual statement of domestic nonprofit corporation with the state of California. Can I have a motion?
So move.
So moved. I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right. We're going to go do an adjournment for the meeting of the Apple Valley Unified School District Board of Trustees for the Facilities Corporation, and the time on that will be
3:10.
11,
Yeah, 3:10.
3:10.
We need a motion on that.
So
So
moved.
I have a second.
I'll second it. That's Mrs.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Convene and go back to the regular meeting.
Okay, we're still streaming. Discussion action session. It is recommended that the Board of Trustees discuss and take action on the following items. Approve the certificated and classified personnel actions as listed.
So move.
I'll
All in
second.
favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Number 2, approve entering into an agreement with Public Agency Retirement Service to design and administer a supplementary retirement plan, SRP, for eligible district employees, provided there is sufficient employee participation and demonstrated fiscal savings to the district.
So
So
moved.
Go ahead.
Who second that?
I'll second it. That,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Number 3, approve the reopener proposal for Apple Valley Unified School District as per the 2019-2020 contract between the Apple Valley Unified School District and the Apple Valley Unified Teachers Association.
So move.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda.
Ms. Okpara, pardon me for a moment.
Yes.
I do have, as the board has approved entering into an agreement with the PARS organization for a supplemental retirement plan, I do have a brief presentation related to that item because I do need some additional direction from the board based on plan design and plan structure.
All right, go
So
ahead.
you bear with me. I will share screen and I'll take a few minutes to go through a presentation.
Was it I3?
Is everybody seeing that screen okay?
Yes, the
Yes.
school
Great.
bus, yes.
Thank you. Yes, nice bright school bus. This is a presentation prepared in part by Public Agency Retirement Services for your consideration in terms of the structure and design of the supplemental retirement plan that you took action on just a few moments ago. PARS, of course, just a little history on them. They do have over 1,900 plans under administration currently with a little under $5 billion in assets under administration. Sampling of clients, you'll see they are widely used in San Bernardino County, including by the San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools Office, and they are used throughout the state of California in terms of structuring these supplemental retirement plans for public agencies. These retirement incentive plans typically do encourage long-term employees toward retirement. And the savings that these plans achieve really are by replacing the more senior employee with a lower paid employee, or not replacing them at all. And the real goal behind these incentives is to really increase the number of natural attrition retirements. And you'll see, as I've discussed previously in our multi-year projections, we always take into account the attrition on the certificated side. A certain number of teachers do retire, and then a certain percentage of those employees are replaced, but we do account for that savings. So what this supplemental retirement plan, it gives us the idea to it gives us the ability to increase that and increase that savings. So in this plan, the board approves a contingent plan offering, which interested employees must submit a letter of resignation during that enrollment period. And at the end of that enrollment period, an analysis is done to determine if there is in fact sufficient cost savings to the district. And then at that point, the board can determine whether the plan proceeds or is canceled. And as on this slide says, if the plan proceeds, those employees and their letters of resignation apply. If the plan is canceled, that particular plan offering and those resignation letters are rescinded. In this proposal plan design, and this is the direction I'm looking for from the board, is scenario 1 or scenario 2. Scenario 1 being a 70% of final pay benefit, scenario 2 being a 50% of final pay benefit. And as listed on the slide here, the district makes contributions over a 5-year period, and those contributions are used to fund the purchase of an annuity that the retiree has the choice on how to disperse that annuity. Quick slide there, and here's an example of those different options that the retiree have. Their first option, of course, they can opt for a lifetime benefit, guaranteed 5-year payouts all the way up to a 15 guaranteed payout. And I built this slide to illustrate a scenario in that 70% of final pay, where in some options, mainly I'll take a look at option 6, your 6-year guaranteed payout, based on the average salary of our target retiree group, that payout would cover the current Aetna single health plan cost or the Kaiser single health plan cost. Those are the numbers that are written over on the right hand side to illustrate how those benefit programs would be a tool to fund healthcare for retirees. In the 50% of final pay, you'll see the payouts, of course, are slightly less because the annuity amount is slightly less. And this again is based on the average salary of that target group, but you'll see it still can cover or pay a significant percentage of any health and welfare costs for a retiree, mainly to bridge to Medicare eligibility at age 65. PARS administers this plan. They handle all the enrollment. They have an online orientation for our employees, and they will send benefit enrollment packages to any of the eligible employees. And they also have an enrollment line, a call center for calls to address any questions that may come up from any potential retirees. Our eligibility requirements that we have in place, or we're proposing to have in place for this particular plan, is age 55 and 10 years of district service as of June 30th, 2021. The two scenarios, 70% or 50%, we need some direction on that. And there's some other assumptions listed on that page. Just an idea of how many employees are eligible in that target group. We have identified 145 of our certificated non-management employees that meet the age 55 and 10 years of district service. You'll see the average age there is 61 and a half, and the average salary is just shy of $103,000. So the average individual in that group would have about a 3.5, 4-year bridge to Medicare, and their average salary would be $103,000. So at the 50% level, that's an annuity of just over $50,000, or at the 70% level, that's an annuity of just over $70,000, of which they choose how to take disbursement. That's a scattergram illustrating the age and the years of service we have in that target group. And this is an important slide. because what this does is PARS has offered these plans to many districts over the years, and they have a lot of data as to how many retirees take them depending on the structure. So this is their forecast of what might happen in each of our two scenarios and the numbers of retirements that we'll get over and above our normal attrition. You'll see in that 50% of final pay, they're projecting 24 retirees. Of course, with the higher benefit level, they do project more retirees would take it. So to illustrate the potential savings that we have, this is assuming that 34 retirements over and above our normal attrition. If we replace 100% of those retirees, we're still projected to save approximately $860,000 in the first year and $2.7 million over 5 years. If we replace 50% of those 34 positions at only 17, you'll see the savings goes up. Again, as not replacing positions, there's much more potential for savings. The 50% final pay, of course, the savings is still there, but not to the same level as PARS is projecting. We would not have quite as many people take the plan. But you can see replacing 50% of those 24 retirements, we still would save $1.1 million in the first year and projected to save close to $5 million over 5 years. Again, these last two slides that are projecting these savings are based on those PARS forecasts. And this is where at the end of the enrollment period, we'll see who in fact has signed up for this, and we'll work with PARS to do a fiscal analysis and give the opportunity and give that information to the board and give you the opportunity to determine if you want to move forward with this plan or rescind the plan offering. This is the proposed timeline. Of course, we're on January 14th. If in fact you have approved, so PARS will begin working on mailing out those benefit illustration packages based on the scenario that you give me the direction on. And we're proposing closing that enrollment window at the end of March, which gives our employees that are considering retirement 2 full months to plan and consider and decide if they would like to enroll and take advantage of this program. And then we're proposing the April 8th meeting with the district. The board would be given some financial analysis data and determine if this plan moves forward or not. And you could see the employees would resign as of June 30th, and then the benefit checks would commence August 1st, 2021. Any questions I can answer at this point?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
And the question is, how soon can the employee get this information to begin thinking about it? I have several questions, so I'm going to take it one at a time.
It's PAR's intent that all our potential retirees would have the information by the end of this month.
Okay. Next question. You did mention something about 50% and 70%. Can
Yes.
you please make sure you clarify, is this 50% every year or is it 50% total?
Great question. Thank you. The 50% or 70% is a one-time annuity that is created. It is not 50% of their final salary each year. For a quick example, if an employee at a salary of 100,000 retires and they take advantage of this program and we're at the 50% level, the district would fund an annuity of $50,000 over a 5-year period, but the annuity would total only $50,000. And then the retiree has the option of how to take disbursements from that annuity.
So you're leaving it up to the retiree to decide what they do with that annuity put aside for them, right?
It's totally up to the retiree how they take the disbursements from their annuity and how they use the funds. It's their decision.
I have a question.
Yes.
If after the 5 years are up, does the employee have the option to continue it on their own?
Well, the 5-year period is only the district contributions. We contribute to the annuities over a 5-year period to spread our payments out. the employee has the option to take payments from that annuity for up to the lifetime benefit. As that slide I showed, a lifetime benefit is possible for the retiree, or a 5-year guaranteed payout, all the way up to a 12-year guaranteed payout.
But
The
if they
monthly amounts.
wanted to continue it without taking anything out, once they have that 5-year period has terminated, is there an option for them to continue contributing this equal amount of money to that, and then decide, say 5 years later, to start taking back from it?
Some of the annuity options, the disbursement options, would be eligible for a rollover option. That would be a question for PARS, I think, to that detail, Ms. Blasingame. It's really, PARS would administer that and work through any of those questions with the employee. So I could pass that question on to PARS and get an answer.
Thank you.
for it.
Thank you so much. We go to item J.
Pause for a minute, right, Matt? They're going to need to give you some direction regarding which level that the board would like us to offer, whether it's the 70% or the 50% option of the compensation, the 1-year compensation.
Do you need a motion for this?
I don't need, no, sir, I don't need motion. I just need consensus from the board.
We already had the consent item, so it's up to when the teachers get involved, they're going to determine if they want to collect at the 50% rate or they want to collect at the 70% rate.
Not accurate.
No, Maria, sorry, I may not have explained that well enough. The teacher, it's the district's decision as to what level of benefit we provide, whether we create an annuity at the 70% level or we create an annuity at the 50% level. That is our decision.
Okay, got
Once
it.
that annuity is created, the teacher then determines how they're going to take the disbursements from that annuity. But creating the annuity and structuring the supplemental retirement program is our decision as a district. So you did approve entering into an agreement. My recommendation at this point is to maintain the age of 55 with 10 years of service in Apple Valley Unified School District, as was presented on that slide. That's that pool of 145 eligible employees who would have the opportunity to retire and enroll in this program. But I need direction from the board whether you would like to offer the 50% benefit level, 50% of final salary, or 70% of final salary in this supplemental retirement program.
Or 70%?
Any recommendation from the administrative team on this?
Well, I can look at the slides. If you recall, at the 70% level, PARS does forecast a much higher participation. And even though it would be a higher cost to the district at that level to fund those annuities, with that higher participation, we have a potential for more savings, both in the initial year and through our 5-year funding period.
Well, that sounds good.
In that case, just keep it at 70, because I think, like you said, it will be a greater incentive when you know that you're going to have some 70% worth of coverage in that period of time. So I personally think we need to stay at the 70 instead of 50.
So do
I
I.
agree with you.
Okay.
I agree.
So-
The 70 is beneficial to not just the district, but
Right.
actually the employee or the retiree. Yeah.
Thank you. Then I will work with PARS to create an offering to our employees that are age 55 with 10 years of service in Apple Valley Unified School District at the 70% of final salary benefit level.
Right.
Thank you.
Now, the final question that I have is if the employee lets you know by, I think it's March that you had, but you don't have the numbers, how soon do you tell them you don't have the numbers to continue this arrangement?
Well, when the enrollment period ends on March 29th, staff in the business office will sit with PARS and PARS will perform a financial analysis based on some information of which teachers have enrolled, what credentials those teachers have, the salary of those particular teachers, and they'll do an analysis and project what savings would be if the board determines to move forward with this plan. That information will be brought to you that's our plan to bring that to you at the meeting on April 8th. And at that meeting, the board will need to take action to approve the plan moving forward or to rescind the plan if it doesn't facilitate sufficient savings for the district.
Okay, thank you.
So the determination, final approval by the district board is it will generate savings for the district.
Yes, it's the intent of this is to generate multi-year savings.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Consent agenda. It is recommended that the Board of Trustees consider approving a number of agenda items as a consent list. Consent items are routine in nature and can be enacted in one motion without further discussion. This procedure conserves meeting time for a full discussion of significant issues. Consent items to be approved in one motion are 1 to 22. 1 through 22.
Make a motion to approve consent items 1 through 22.
I'll second it.
I would like to pull item number 4 and 6.
Oh, okay. Except 4 and 6, yes.
So
Okay.
you're going to need a
So
motion
now
to,
I'm going to amend the consent items to approve 1, 2, 3, 5, 7 to 22.
So move.
All in favor?
you need a second.
Second,
All in favor?
All right.
Any opposed? Okay, so I pulled item number 4 because it had to do with conducting the first reading of revised board bylaws 9250. And I would like to hear from Mrs. Nelson about this particular item.
The change to this item has to do with the amount of benefits that are received by board members. This follows the CSBA language and meets the law. So as we reviewed policy and board bylaws, this was one that was had not been amended over the course of time. And so as we were changing and after starting with a brand new board, we wanted to make sure that this was in place and we weren't violating any laws by offering a higher benefits package than what is offered to our teachers unit.
Okay. And then I did pull item number 6, which is a 2020-2021 school accountability report cards. And the concern that I have in that one, I've already had the conversation with the superintendent. But the concern I had in that one was I was just troubled by the fact that there was a lot of safety issues that were addressed in that school accountability report card. If we are putting our children in the classrooms, that has to be our number one
Goal.
priority. We can't have the kids going into a classroom where the tiles are malfunctioning. We can't have them in a restroom that is not really good enough. And I do know that the many of the schools had a score of good, but quite a few of them had a score of fair. And I thought to myself, how can you be a school having a score of fair? Fair to me is below C, if you were doing a grading period. And that was a little bit uncomfortable for me. And I just felt that that has to be a number one priority, to make sure that the children, when they go into those classrooms, the carpets are not peeling, the electrical outlets are working, and the tiles are not falling apart. You don't have holes in walls, and you don't have leaky faucets. Those are issues that really concern me, because that is our job, to make sure that the campus is perfect. But after having my conversation with the superintendent, I came out of it convinced that this information is about a year behind. So I'm going to keep reading the SARC report because that is even though it's outdated, it is still a report that tells us how our district is doing. And this is public information. I don't want anybody to get information that has to do with our district that says we have wires laying around, or we have a storage shed we make our electrical room a storage shed. Those are the places that you need to make sure that it is safe for our children. I don't have children anymore in the school district, so my job is to make sure that any other child that comes through while I'm here, that I'm making sure that everything is done right for them. But altogether, our schools are doing well, but I'm concerned that
Madam President, I can ask Mr. Schulenberg to do a future item where we explain the FIT report and how that impacts the Maintenance and Operations Department's plan over the course of time to adjust to any items that are located in that document.
Yeah, I would like to have that, if it's possible, just, instead of, because when we had this board packet, it just had too many things that we had to read. For things like when we have to have the SARC report, we need to have it when we don't have a lot of things that we need to cover in a board meeting, so that we'll have the opportunity to be able to really ask questions. I read every single thing that comes to me. So I just want to be sure that we don't forget to read something that is important to benefit our kids. But that's the only reason. Okay, any question on those two?
Yes.
Yes.
Mrs. Nelson, is the accountability report card based on the Williams facility visit?
The Pat Schlosser can answer this, but the reality, I can let him take it farther than what I'm going to share with you. So we have a couple processes. We have the Williams visits that, as you know, were delayed this year based on COVID-19. However, we also have a process which we call the FIT report, which is a group that comes out and walks our campuses and provides information back to each school site, which is kind of through multiple layers. So our risk management department sees the FIT reports to correct any major issues before they could become a risk problem. Mr. Schulenberg's department with maintenance and operations deals with the corrective actions and supports a timeline to remedy any issues so that they go from fair to good. And that includes as we replace carpet within a system, as those plans are laid out, they're based on these FIT reports. So yes, the Williams reports do impact us, but the FIT report is what we utilize to make corrections on our school campuses, because Williams is a one-day visit, right? It's not an ongoing process. So the FIT report gets us going through and a much deeper dive on all of our campuses, because Williams only visits
1 or 2 days.
two of our campuses, two now, two on our district.
Yeah, what I would like to see going forward is some kind of report that gives us a real nice picture of what's happening at each of those schools. What are the principals doing? What are their assistants doing? How are they checking to make sure that the paint is not falling apart, that the trees are trimmed so that there is no danger for the children? Those are the kinds of things that we're paying attention to. We cannot micromanage the schools, but we just want to be sure that our schools don't come up with these fair reports.
Yeah, Mr. Schulenberg does do a report typically to the board in the spring, having to do with the FIT report, and talks about the plans for often inclusive of what we do over the summer when students aren't present. Certainly while we've had kids off, they have been working through some of the larger issues that they would have had to wait for summer. So we can absolutely add that to an agenda in the future.
Thank you
very much. Okay, so
Matt, when do you normally do the maintenance and operations report?
I've typically done that either in February or March.
So it's coming, guys. We'll just make sure that it's you'll have a heads up that that's the one that you're asking for. Okay.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And now can we approve item number 4 and 6 now?
So-
Yes. Yes.
Who's second?
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Do we have any staff reports? No?
Comment.
No staff reports. Comments? Kylie, do we have any public comments?
We do not have any public comments at this time.
Mrs. Nelson, do you have a comment?
I do. I want to recognize that both Aaron and Maisel did an amazing job, as they usually do at the beginning of these board meetings. I want to acknowledge that their focus was about connecting students to their school campuses, even in these times of COVID-19 and learning from home, and ways that they have focused on social emotional learning. And as a district, we are continuing to pay very close attention to that. Each school site has plans and is working through supporting their students. The counselors are involved, and our police department is involved. As you know, they've transitioned greatly, and just this past weekend was Law Enforcement Appreciation Day. And so I want to acknowledge Mr. Raleigh for being a retired officer, as well as our entire police force that goes out and knocks on doors right now and checks on kids and makes sure they're connected and supported in any way they need. So we are fortunate in this district to have our police department, and as well as our sheriff's department that supports us when we have to expand outside. So I appreciate all of them, and really do mimic what the students said, and we will continue to keep focused on social emotional learning.
Thank you. Is that it?
Yep.
Mrs. Blassingame?
No comments.
Thank you. Mr. So?
No further comment.
Mr. Bender?
No comment.
Mr. Raleigh?
Nothing to add. Thank you.
Nothing from me. There being no further business to come before the Board of Trustees, it is recommended that the meeting be adjourned.
I make a motion that we entertain adjournment.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.